Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast, powered by Siemens. And now your host, Niall Sullivan.
Yeah, and so in terms of the factors that contribute to downtime industrial settings, I know there's some points in the report that sort of, and some trends that sort of indicate why that might be happening. Maybe we go into that a little bit, Anja.
Yeah, so coming from Siemens, we are a technology company, so of course I'm immediately thinking about that. Siemens, we provide our customers the machines and infrastructure so that they can produce and operate their plants. So for me, it's the first thing to consider. There may be something wrong with the machinery due to wear and tear of the equipment, which is normal. So this is something that can be addressed with good maintenance strategy. And this is something where we help our customers. But then there are other factors causing downtime. So we saw in the supply chain crisis in the last years that not having the necessary materials available can also result in the factory just not running because there's no material. So this is something where we cannot immediately help from Siemens, sorry. But yeah, it's not just one single factor, but at least where we can help, this is something I love to talk about.
So I guess on that note, so the other sort of external factors as well, is there any other sort of external factors at play which are sort of influencing this number?
Yeah, I was surprised to see that for the fast-moving consumer goods, the cost of downtime actually fell after the COVID lockdown. And that was something at first surprising, but when we thought about it further, we found an explanation, and that has to do with the balance of power between manufacturers and retailers, maybe. So in 2019 or before, retailers were in a stronger position because there was enough of everything, and retailers could dictate more or less to the manufacturers. Right? They could name their terms and they could have heavy penalty clauses. But then COVID hit and there was a big boom in demand for electronics, right? Everybody needed to equip their home office, needed to get headset, microphones, speakers, stuff like that, monitors and so on. And suddenly there was not enough product on the market and consumers needed more. And then on top of that came the supply chain crisis, that there was even less material available. So this shifted the power balance, and suddenly the manufacturers could, make their terms, and therefore probably they didn't have such heavy penalties clauses anymore from the retailers, and therefore this reduced their costs for the downtime, at least during that phase. But I guess it's not a stable situation, and it has turned again. So I think we're pretty good in the material, and the demand from the market is not so high anymore. So that's again a different situation.
Yeah, and actually, I guess on that note, so in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic, which you sort of touched upon there, I mean, what other sort of impacts has that had, based on the data in the report? I guess it was a really good example you gave for consumer goods, but do you think it's had impacts elsewhere as well in terms of the numbers?
Yeah, I mean, the supply chain issue also hit automotive, for example. So for them, they were really struggling in producing enough cars. But again, now after COVID, the demand for cars was reduced, and therefore, now they have the cars sitting in the lots and don't need to produce as heavily. So again, there's always some shifts.
And I guess, if you're not producing as much, then downtime, there's less chance of downtime, right? Well,
exactly.
Which, that's really interesting. And in terms of, I guess, some of the strategies that businesses could implement to minimize downtime, you talked about, us as Siemens. I mean, there's quite a lot we can, influence and support customers with, but maybe we could dive into that a little bit. Some of the support that's available, both person and I was going to say, yeah, and technology-wise.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I mentioned earlier, predictive maintenance, from my point of view, is the state-of-art technology for maintenance strategies. So it tends to reduce unplanned downtime, of course, which has the highest costs, including workforce that needs to be paid when they aren't producing, or express fees for quickly needed material and personnel. But also planned downtime can be reduced when machines are continuously monitored and inspections are not necessary anymore that might require the standstill of the machinery. So this is definitely something which can reduce downtime in total, and therefore increase availability.
Yeah, and I guess is it a case of identifying? I guess it's identifying assets or machines that require most attention, right? In the initial
Exactly.
deployment.
Yeah, I mean, we do not perform the maintenance ourselves from Siemens. Of course, we want to enable our customers to perform the right maintenance measures, but only exactly these which are necessary. And this is how we solve this, by focusing the attention to the assets where it's needed. And anything where there's no notification, that means it's running smoothly and no interference or inspection is necessary. Yeah, that's the principle behind.
Yeah, and I guess and more, and coming on sort of the technology side, but more and more predictive maintenance is almost, and actually the best ways I've heard it, or one of the best ways I've heard it described, is through as an interview I did last year, actually, with a maintenance person called James Bond. Would you believe? A very catchy
Famous?
name, yeah, famous name, famous. You might have heard of it somewhere, but not the James Bond. But the way he describes it is, how he uses predictive maintenance. It's like a tool in his toolbox, and it's interesting what you said, Anja, before about maintenance strategy. So it's often thought, throw everything else out and just do predictive maintenance, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? It's a combination of different tools and tactics.
Yeah, and I mean, a common maybe misconception is always that the prediction is the most important part. How long do I have time? So maybe this isn't the most important part. Maybe it's enough to know, okay, there's something going on. It's still running, it's still working, but something's not right. I should schedule some inspection or some activity and provide the right materials and the right person to do it. And so, but do it in a planned manner. So I think this already is a very helpful way of improving, opposed to reactive maintenance, when you can only react after something has broken down. So it's a lot less stress to do this in a planned manner than react quickly and run to the source of the problem.
Yeah, and you're right. Especially, the predictive, the predictive part. It's often like, when exactly is our machine or this machine going to fail, rather than, again, another term that's I've often heard used is, decision support, if I can say it, tool, which is so it's guiding people and to the machines that require attention. So it's a guiding principle, not
Exactly.
This is happening exactly on this date at this time, which really would be magic, I guess, in a lot of ways. But then when you mix things like AI into the equation, it suddenly gets you can see the way why that gets a bit confusing, to people looking at these different tools.
And also artificial intelligence. People think it's magic, but sometimes it's just helpful to have somebody or something monitor all the time, and not just 2 assets, but I don't know, thousands. So that's also artificial intelligence, because they never get tired. They can do it all day long and on many levels at the same time. No human can do that. So this is also artificial intelligence, being aware all the time, doing the calculations all the time.
And it's an interesting point, because as a customer, I was talking to one of our colleagues the other day about a customer in Canada, uranium mining, and they don't monitor like large volume. You talk about large volumes of assets. They don't monitor large volumes, but actually it's, and I don't want not to describe it as insurance, but they almost see it as like another the best, not insurance, but another better way to describe it is like an extra maintenance person just keeping an eye on things, especially when the site's so remote and obviously not easy to get to in the easily. So it actually
Yeah.
acts as a sort of a remote maintainer, just like you said, constantly monitoring your machines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a third maintainer in the room or so.
And actually, as we move on to that, I guess I've been sort of building up to it, but I was obviously going to mention, AI is something that's mentioned a lot, but Gen AI, you knew what I was
Yeah.
coming to, didn't you? I mean, even today, we are recording this in advance. I'll give that away now because it links quite nicely, because there's Hanover Messe is this week. There's a presentation this afternoon there. You can probably catch that on the podcast at some point as well. But it's obviously a big topic, and there's been a big investment from Siemens, broadly, outside of predictive maintenance into that. So how can we see that sort of impacting, I guess, downtime? Because essentially we're taking that whole, third party maintainer, to the next level. It's almost like someone will be there.
Yeah, I really like to say it this way, that the generative AI can help to gain actionable insights. I mean, it's first of all, it's plain time series data. You see kind of a line, zigzag line or something, and you need to be able to understand this. And there's less and less experts available, a lot of people retiring soon, and it's difficult to replace them in the future. So if Gen AI can help understand the numbers and give context to it, for example, well, this is actually bad, or this is a bad sign because, and give some reasoning behind that. So that's the first thing to make it more easier to understand for a new person or for any person. And then combining that even further, what's the root cause and what kind of action do I have to take now? What are my possible strategies? What are the possible measures that need to be done? What's the material and the tools involved and so on? If this is presented already together with the notification, well, something's wrong, that makes it even easier to digest and really help to solve this. So this is my vision, that generative AI can make actionable or give actionable insights, get people to do something.
Yeah.
And the right thing, obviously.
The right thing. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. I think from my point of view, it's almost making predictive maintenance a bit more. I mean, I'm talking about the newest functionality in Senseye Predictive Maintenance here, but it's almost making it more accessible, because if someone looked at some charts, there's a lot of our customers do, and they interpret them and they spend the time. But if you can see a nice summary with links to relevant information, and like you said, that additional layer of prescriptive insights, this is where it gets very interesting. So, because I mean, ideally, we want people not to log in too much. They log in for a little bit at the beginning of the day, see what requires actions, and leave. So we're almost making that process easier, because they don't have to interpret anything. They can just go, oh, okay, it's told me this, off I go, kind of thing.
Maybe it also helps to gain trust for those experienced maintainers. They know what they're doing, and yes, they can put their hand on the motor and feel the vibration, know what's going on. And for them, it's a change to rely on an AI, on a computer, to give them some fancy charts. So maybe they're not big fans right away. But if they really recognize the insight that's then created out of the system, and not just figures, but actually explanations and reasoning, I think that can also help with the acceptance. Oh, it does really work. It does have good advice. So that's something that can also lead in this direction. And then the person can retire with the good feeling, okay, I can leave it to the system and leave it to the young, new maintenance people. They have a good tool on hand.
Yeah.
Well,
No, exactly. But as we, I guess we're coming towards the end now, and we sort of veered off on a nice little tangent then. It's a really interesting topic. It's almost a podcast episode in itself. But in terms of, I guess we go back to the report. what do you see as sort of the next steps? How do you see some of the results sort of influencing sort of budget decisions or strategy decisions within within some of our customers and wider organizations as well?
Yeah, again, if I say to a customer, I assume your downtime costs $30,000 per minute, this sounds huge. And many times they won't admit this right away. But hopefully the report motivates them to look further, that it's not that there's several facets to the downtime costs. And it's not just the standstill of the equipment itself. It's the personnel, it's the material, and it's maybe even the loss of business. And that's something probably the maintenance people don't look at. But and that means in the end, it's a management decision to change strategies or to invest in a certain technology to improve availability and reduce downtime, because the loss of availability has major impact. So this is something to remember. You need to know why you do something, and typically it's the finance guys who calculate this. So what's the risk and what's a measure we can perform to reduce the risk, and that's typically not the maintenance department. It's even higher, like in the production area or the CFO, where they have the total view, let's say, on the cost of downtime. So this is something we should keep in mind when trying to convince our customer that this is actually a helpful way to address downtime. To do, for example, predictive maintenance and invest in a predictive maintenance system and change of process.
And of course, I guess linked to that as well, it's interesting what you say between different departments. So there almost needs to be something to talk about a lot, but like a culture shift as well in terms of mindset as well. Because these things, especially with technology, it's not just, well, if you just focus on the technology and implement the technology, then based on experience, I guess, less likely to be successful. But if there's sort of a joined up, really focused strategy, look, we've got these issues and we believe in this and we want to really invest ourselves in what we're doing, then so it's about culture as well, basically.
Yeah, it's good to know the target or the reason why something is being done or changed. This can help accept that change. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think we've covered quite a lot. I think that's a really good sort of preview to the report, which, like I said, we're recording this a little bit in advance, being honest there, but it will be basically we're going to share it in the link below. It have been released, I guess, this week. So weird saying this week when we're not in this week, but it will be linked below, and you'll probably see it in various sort of social media channels as well. And just feel free to obviously reach out to your local Siemens representative or on LinkedIn or however want to reach us to discuss it, because there's a lot of it's a very, very sort of big and bulky report, maybe quite scary and intimidating to some, but there is a lot of really great sort of insights in there. So I'd really encourage you to sort of read that, and hopefully we've sort of dug into that a little bit today as well. But so Anja, just any final thoughts on the report at all?
Yeah, just you just said it's a huge or thick report. Well, there's sections on different verticals, so maybe you just read the one about your specific vertical, or there's even a part about small and medium-sized companies, because obviously the figures are not as high, but still it helps identify there's more costs related to downtime than you might think of, like on a short term. So yeah, interesting read, definitely. I was really enlightened by some of the findings inside.
Oh, excellent. And actually, what I mentioned all the way at the start as well, the sort of the data that's fueling sort of this report. So we'll also link to the return on investment calculator, because if you really want to sort of go into the detail, you can assess obviously your downtime costs and potential savings you can make. But there's also that other side of it, the cultural and data sort of readiness as well. So there's sort of an assessment you get, and you get some information on that. So at least it'll give you a sort of a starting point if you're just beginning that sort of journey, looking at sort of predictive maintenance and IoT and digital transformation. But no, thank you, Anja, for your time today. It's been really great to chat again. I forgot to say you were on the podcast before, so I won't leave it so long next time to invite you back on.
Thank you. Until next time, then.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for listening. See you on the next episode.
Please like and subscribe on all major podcast channels and find out more about Senseye Predictive Maintenance at Siemens.com.